welcome to Believe in Clemson Football. I'm Will Vandervoort. That is my producer extraordinaire, Alex Dodd. As we get you ready for another season of Clemson football, this is it, guys. Fall camp ended the other day, yesterday. That's why we were doing our podcast tonight, because two reasons. I'm going to be honest with you. Two reasons. A, because camp ended yesterday, so I didn't want to just rush it and do it yesterday. And B, I got a Steelers game to go to on Thursday night. And anybody who knows me knows my Steelers are very important if I get a chance to see them. Yeah, preseason game, but it's the only time they're in the South. You got to go to a practice. It's the only time they're in the South, Alex, this year.
Yeah,
so got no choice but to go to this practice, if you will. But hey, gonna have fun. Gonna hang with my friend Sam, who I know is listening to the podcast. He always does. So I appreciate Sam listening, and I'll see you tomorrow, Sam, as we get ready for that nice preseason game there in Charlotte. But Clemson, though, obviously has ended its fall camp, and now we get ready for LSU. Our talk today is going to be all LSU and Clemson. We're going to also talk a little bit about the college football playoffs. We also want your comments as well, so please put your comments in the comment section. We'll definitely, if it's clean and everything, we'll put it up on the podcast.
And if it's not, you'll probably see us laughing when you put it up there. But
generally
we won't share it.
I think they probably get that, the ones when we start laughing. Anyway, but appreciate you guys joining us tonight. Ricardo LeCompe from WWLTV in New Orleans. He's a sports anchor and reporter there. Some of you in the Greenville area might remember Ricardo from WYFF, worked there for several years, covered Clemson. He now is in the New Orleans area and covers the Tigers. And so he's going to come on tonight and talk about LSU and give us kind of the skinny from an inside perspective of what LSU is like as they get ready for this mega battle with Clemson. So we're looking forward for Ricardo to join us here. He's going to join us about 8:15, so hang on. And you guys are going to want to listen to that. He's really good, knows his stuff. One of the better, if you remember him here in Greenville, that he's one of the better sportscasters around. And so I'm looking forward to reconnecting with Ricardo, Alex. I think that's going to be fun.
Yeah, Ricardo's the man. I hadn't seen him since he left the market. So it's going to be cool to kind of reconnect with Ricardo when he comes on the show. And like you mentioned, he's just a consummate professional. He knows his stuff. And there's nobody that we know who knows LSU better than that guy.
Absolutely. And so we'll have him on here at 8:15. Right now, though, I want to go ahead and just mention our sponsors. As always, we're sponsored by the Clemson Insider, the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Go on over to the ClemsonInsider.com and check out all the things we have. You can read my stories over there. You can read JP's recruiting stuff. JP's lining you guys all up for who's coming to visit and stuff right now for the LSU game. So you want to go over to the Clemson Insider and check it out. If you haven't been to our website, you can also find us on Facebook at Clemson Insider. Also on X at the Clemson Insider as well, and even on Instagram at Clemson Insider. We got an Instagram page. I know, that's crazy. So we're moving with the times over there at the Clemson Insider. Of course, you can find us on YouTube, as you are. Some of you right now are watching us, and we appreciate you guys joining us tonight there. So again, go over to the Clemson Insider, the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting. Also, want to welcome a new sponsor tonight, as we been kind of teasing it the last couple of weeks, Alex, but now we can say it's official. Tonight we welcome our new sponsor to the show, the all-new Smoke on the Water, which will be located at 64 Beacon Drive on Restaurant Row off of Pelham Road in Greenville, South Carolina. If everything goes to plan, Smoke on the Water will open its new location by late October. The all-new Smoke on the Water will feature the same famous smoke meats it had before: pulled pork, brisket, beer butt chicken, and prime rib. But a few new things will appear on the menu as well. Also, its signature 5 barbecue sauces will be there to complement, not smother, but complement any of its smoked meats. Like before, the all-new Smoke on the Water will have Greenville's best happy hour, and it will still feature live acoustic acts. Smoke on the Water, owned by Mike Schuler, was a staple in downtown Greenville for 18 years before being forced out of the previous location by its new landlords. Right now, the all-new Smoke on the Water is available for catering and has its food truck. So if you want Smoke on the Water to cater your party, dinner, or whatever you want to do, call 864-232-9091 for more information. Again, that's 864-232-9091 for more information. The all-new Smoke on the Water, which will be located when it opens up its doors in October at 64 Beacon Drive on Restaurant Row off of Pelham Road. Again, that's 864-232-9091 for more information. Alex, I don't know about you, man, but Smoke on the Water is back. I'm stoked about it. I know our friends over there, Mike and Mark Sturgis, are excited as well, as we got Smoke on the Water back and rolling in Greenville.
Yeah, I used to go there a good bit with my grandparents when it was in downtown Greenville. And like you kind of mentioned there, it was a staple downtown before, everything got so expensive and they started forcing some people out. So it's good to see that Smoke on the Water's coming back. Man, I always love their mac and cheese. They're like some of the best mac and cheese in the world.
Dude, their mac and cheese was the bomb. It really, or is, I should say, because they are back. So it is the bomb, and that's something that's going to be there as well. And the smoked meats, as he talked about, the chicken and the beer butt chicken. Oh my gosh.
Chicken. I mean, normally
dude, that is the best, man.
Yeah, when I go to like a barbecue place, I'm never the order the chicken guy. Like I always kind of turn my nose up at the chicken at the barbecue place. But dude, their chicken is unreal. I mean, it like melts in your mouth. It's got that smoky flavor, and like they kind of mentioned on the sauces, you don't have to like pour a gallon of mustard barbecue sauce on it.
Just compliments it. Yeah, it just compliments it. So yeah, Smoke on the Water, man. We're excited to have you back, and we're excited to have them as our sponsor now here on Believe in Clemson. Always excited. Look forward to working with those guys. I worked with Mike years ago with Sturge when I helped Sturge out on his radio show, and it was always fun. And Mike gave me free food, and I always appreciate anybody gives me free food. I'm always going to be thankful too. You know what I'm saying?
If they're opening in October, man, hopefully they're open that first weekend of October when I'm back home, and I could go in there. We could go in there, maybe both of us on that Friday at lunchtime. Maybe we do a meet and greet or something. Who knows? Yeah,
that'd be great if that happens. So anyway, appreciate it, those guys over there. And hey, look, like I said, use that telephone number. You scroll on the bottom of the screen there. Call it if you want it. They're catering right now, so they'll take care of you from a catering standpoint. You got the food truck already as they get ready to open the restaurant there, as Alex said, in October, sometime coming in October. So anyway, moving right along, though, we got a lot of other things to go through today. Alex, I know we're going to talk about college football playoff here in a little bit after we get done talking with Ricardo. But pretty excited about this and what me and you're going to pick here. I went through today. We both talked about it. We're not going to reveal anything, but it was pretty difficult to kind of get an idea, first of all, who he's going to be in your top 12 and then ranking them, because as you know, Alex, the seeding now is going to be the big deal. 1 through 12, you're going to be seeded. And that's so basically the college football playoff poll is going to determine the seeding. So so the top 4 in the college football playoff poll are going to get the bye. Everybody else then falls in line, and that's who's going to be hosting playoff games and who's going on the road. It's going to be pretty exciting. It's going to make the college football playoff poll each week even more exciting when they do that, I guess, in early November, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just adds extra gravitas, to the selection process, because even last year it was kind of anticlimactic. Like you knew who the top 4 teams were going to be before the thing was revealed, so you were really just waiting for that first round of games to figure out who was going to be in there. But now it's like, man, a lot can change on conference championship weekend. That's what I was thinking as I'm looking through this. I'm like, all right, well, these teams are probably going to play each other in the conference championships. But, a team could drop 2 or 3 spots depending on how they looked in that game. So I think it's going to be a bunch of fun and adds just another level of excitement to that selection process.
I think you're 100% correct. It's going to be fun to see, who comes out of it and what 12 teams. And we're not going to name a champion. We've already said that. So that's probably a good thing, because I don't know. Like
maybe we could do that next week. Just say who our champion, like who our Final Four and who our champion is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. Can we? I don't know. I don't know if people
dude,
like
I
me.
hate doing that.
I don't know if people. Well, like I said before, it's hard when you get to the final. It's even hard. It was hard to get to the final 8, but when you get to the final 4, it's hard to tell who's going to win what and how, and it's not going to be an easy road anymore for anybody. Not that it was before, but before, if you controlled things in the regular season, you put yourself in good position to be, in a situation where, like Clemson did in 16 and 18, and they went on those runs. It's just hard. I mean, that's all I can say. It's just harder. It's a different game now too because of the rev share and NIL. So teams aren't loading up like before when Clemson and Alabama and LSU would just load up on players, and you can't do that anymore. In Georgia, I should say, you gotta, I don't even know. Like, I'll be honest with you, and we're going to say it here in a minute, but man, it was hard talking. I was going through Georgia's schedule, and I'm like, man, it's going to be hard for the Bulldogs this year too. They got a murder's road there that starting in week 3 of the season.
I know, and the other thing that makes it tough for Georgia particularly is you're breaking in a new quarterback to start the season with that schedule. So maybe if you're playing those teams in late October, you feel a little bit better about it. But starting out the year that way, man, that's tough.
It's very tough. So it's going to be interesting. And I'm curious to. We're going to talk here in a few minutes when Ricardo LeCompe comes on from sports anchor down at WWLTV in New Orleans. The Clemson-LSU game, man, it's time to talk about it. I mean, it's finally here after months and months of, oh my gosh, we just waiting on it, thinking about it, what's going to happen. Alex, we're 10 days from it.
Come on.
As we're doing this. That's right. We're 10 days from it as we're doing this podcast today. And, Kay Klubnik was talking yesterday with the media, and he's like, they're excited, but they got a ton of work to do before they could even think about really kind of getting to that point here next Saturday on August 30th. But it's pretty cool though. Like, it's finally here. You can actually start talking X's and O's and who's going to do what's the strength and weaknesses going into this game that we think for both teams. How do we think things are going to go? I'd love to hear you guys' comments, the fans here listening.
I know we got old LSU Luke on us, joining us on YouTube here too.
All right, LSU
Le Bourgeois.
Yeah, appreciate you, buddy. Like I said, Ricardo will be on to talk about your LSU Tigers, your Bayou Bengals here in a little bit. But yeah, I'm just anxious to see get this game rolling, man. I'm ready for it to play now. I just hope the teams aren't, because that wouldn't be good since I got 10 more days. But me and you stoked. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, I mean, and this weekend we get our little football appetizer. We get that week 0. We get to watch Farmageddon in Ireland between Kansas State and Iowa State. But man, it just makes me want next week to get here even more. There's just so many good games on the schedule. And this game, I mean, we've been talking about this game really since it was announced, but heavily since the season ended.
Mm-hmm.
So, man, I'm just ready for him to spot the ball.
Yeah, and you talked about the games this week. I've already made a declaration that I'm not doing anything on Saturday. I am watching football from start to finish. I don't care what kind of football it is or anything. Ricardo here is about to join us here in just a second. Man, I'm just ready for football. I don't care who's playing. I don't care if it's, BHP versus Seneca. I'm ready to watch it. Nothing against BHP and Seneca. As we bring in Ricardo LeCompe right now. Ricardo, what's up, buddy? Hadn't seen you in a long time.
Will, it's been a minute. I think the last time we talked was the national championship game here in New Orleans between LSU and Clemson. I think that was the last time we all got to hang out, do Bourbon Street a little bit. Yeah, I think that was the last time, Will.
That was the last time. I won't tell anything about what happened that night.
Nothing happened, man. We were all in bed by 10 o'clock. I mean,
we had a good time, as you should if you're visiting or you live in New Orleans, and that's what is it? It's let the good times roll, right?
That's what
it is. So that's what happened.
That's exactly what happened, man. Hey, dude, I appreciate you coming on, man, and joining us tonight, because, man, I don't know about you guys down there. We're stoked about this game up here. I mean, this is all anybody's talking about. As you know how Clemson is. You've covered Clemson in this area. I mean, this is all everybody's talking about. What's it like down there in Baton Rouge and in New Orleans?
Yeah, the expectations here in this area for Southeast Louisiana, for everybody who's in Baton Rouge as well. I mean, this is the year they think that they hope that LSU gets into the college football playoff. Remember, this is Brian Kelly's 4th year now, and it's just been, it's been 9-10 win seasons, but they haven't gotten to the playoffs yet. So they feel like this is the year that they can do it. And the biggest reason why they feel that way it's the quarterback, and it's Garrett Nussmeier, and he's going into his second year as a starter. And all you have to do is look at the history recently of LSU and second-year starting quarterbacks. We'll start with Joe Burrow, right? Second year, gets him to a national championship. Look at Jane Daniels, the progression from year 1 to year 2, and Jane Daniels ends up being a top pick into the NFL draft and having an outstanding rookie season for the Washington Commanders. Now everybody's high on the second year of Garrett Nussmeier and what he's able to do. He had a great, solid first year as a starter. He's a guy who's been loyal to this LSU program, who wanted to stick around. He had chances to transfer when Burrow came in. When Jane Daniels was the starter, he decided to stick it out. And he's rewarded now being a starter for a second year now. And they feel like they've got some pieces around him. So, yeah, there's always that excitement every year, especially with the start to the season with Clemson going up to Death Valley. And I use that loosely because there is that debate. Who's got the real Death Valley? Is it in Clemson? Is it in Baton Rouge? And this is part of the, all right, who gets the naming rights? Who gets to have the true Death Valley? So, yeah, everyone around here is stoked to see what LSU potentially not only could do in this season opener on August 30th, but what they can do this year.
Well, Ricardo, I've been educating all the LSU people on the history of the name Death Valley, and letting them know that, it is what it is, but, Clemson has owned it. Coach Kelly came out a few weeks ago during the SEC Media Days and says that, they're letting Clemson borrow the name. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you can borrow something that somebody had first. And I don't think you got to let them borrow it. So, so I've been putting out the history, just give them history lessons, about when Clemson started. And really, let's be honest, it's like a bunch of urban legends about when LSU might have started calling it Death Valley, but we don't really know an exact date like we know at Clemson, right? And we know the earliest account is way after Clemson started.
Yeah, and it all depends on who you talk to and around here, because a lot of those who want to have that they've had it before Clemson. I think that's what they're saying around here. But again, they haven't really nailed down the date of when it happened. So again, the beauty of and this is why you love college football, because you can say, hey, we had the nickname first. We can claim 15 national championships if we wanted to. Looking at you, Auburn. But that's the beauty of college football. You can say, hey, you know what? We're the real Death Valley. No, we're the real Death Valley. And really what you could do is just settle in on the field and have the bragging rights for the year. So certainly let's just say that they're playing for the Death Valley naming rights for this one.
What I found out yesterday, speaking of teams taking national championships and claiming some, is LSU actually owns a national championship like from 1904 or something. The NCAA recognizes it, but LSU doesn't, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, and part of that is probably recent success. Like if you're like Auburn, who hasn't had, outside of Cam Newton,
I'm just digging Auburn,
right? I know we're digging Auburn, and I'm like, but it's like, man, if we haven't won one in a while, let's go claim where LSU's kind of like, you know what, we're good. We don't need that early one. We've got a more recent one, but that's part of the, this national championship thing. Like the expectations down here, like they have poured so much money and so many resources into making sure that LSU is not only in competitive year round, but like get them into a playoff. We have the facilities, we have the talent. If we get into the playoffs, we have a realistic shot every season of winning a national championship. And since that 19, it was funny because I have a lot of friends who are like, man, during that 19 season, they were like, I am so happy. I will trade, 5 bad seasons, 10 bad seasons to win a national championship. Well, they got rid of Coach O after, a COVID year, and then they didn't follow the expectations. They bring in Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly has yet to get them to a playoff. And now the talk has shifted. Now it's like, why are we not back into being competitive again and winning national championships and being in the playoffs? And that thing of going, yeah, man, like once in a lifetime winning a national championship, that's out the window. Now they're like, no, we need to be stacking championships. And it's kind of similar to what Clemson is, right? Like they haven't won one since the Trevor Lawrence days. And it's like, and that's very recent, but I know Clemson fans are like, wait a minute, we haven't won a national championship. Why are we slipping? And that's kind of, it's good to have those expectations. And at times it feels like it's unrealistic, but when you're pouring that much resources and time and building facilities, that's the expectation every year. It's either you're playing for a national championship or you're winning it. And certainly that's how they feel down at LSU, at least having the opportunity to win a national championship or playing for one.
Absolutely. And obviously, you mentioned Garrett Nussmeier and the expectations that he has coming into the season. First of all, what were those few weeks like in your area when everybody's trying to figure out if he's coming back or going to the NFL? And what do you think it is about Garrett Nussmeier that makes him so special?
Yeah, I think there wasn't really as much worry that he would jump to the NFL. I know you saw some of the projections of where he could land, but I think for his betterment, it was to come back and improve that draft stock. And there's now a potential where he could become the first quarterback off the board in the 2026 draft. But yeah, and I mentioned earlier, is that progression from year one to year two. And Nuss throws for over 4,000 yards last year. He has a completion percentage around 64.2%. He's throwing for nearly 30 touchdowns. But the one part that he wants to improve in the game, and he's talked about this, is that consistency. He had 12 interceptions last year. And that's a high number for, somebody where you're like, he may have tried a lot of things or maybe he was like maybe pressing the issue a lot in certainly some of those big games. I mean, there are games like Alabama where he didn't come through. Some of these other SEC losses where it was just that consistency wasn't there. And so if he feels like, hey, if I can be consistent, if I can get those interception numbers down, and if I let this offense kind of just, flourish like it should, then not only will this team have success, but in turn, he's the one who's going to jump on up at the draft board. So it was from not only from his side, but from the coach's side, where it just would have it benefited him to come back for that second year as a starter. And again, it's one of those things where it's like he had that loyalty, showed that loyalty to LSU that he wanted to stick around, and now this is his opportunity to really go down as one of the best quarterbacks in LSU history. If he could have a season this year that rivals something like Joe Burrow, and that's kind of what he's looking for. So we'll see if he can do that. But certainly there's a lot of things that he could have improved and he wanted to work on. And I think he's going to hit some of those benchmarks this year. Despite whatever happens in this first game against Clemson, I think he's in line to have a really great year.
Ricardo LeCompe from WWLTV in New Orleans. Sports anchor, sports reporter, joining us here tonight to talk about LSU and Clemson here, this matchup. You mentioned Garrett Nussmeier and how important he is to this team. But as me and you both know, it all starts up front. And the biggest question mark right now, and I saw Brian Kelly's comments yesterday, they're still looking for a left guard. They're still looking for a right tackle. What can you tell us about that offensive line right now as they got 10 days before he's got to figure something out to trot whoever he's going to trot out there in Death Valley?
Yeah, it's certainly tough when you're replacing 4 out of your 5 starting offensive linemen were taken in this past NFL draft. Mm-hmm. And the top one was obviously at left tackle with Will Campbell, who got drafted 4th overall by the New England Patriots. So this whole preseason, it's kind of been an up and down kind of performances with the offensive line. Some days they have some good days, some days they don't. Brian Kelly was asked about his offensive line last week, and he is very high on the O-line despite all of the problems. And the reason why he's really high, it starts with their center, Braylon Moore. He's a Virginia Tech transfer. And he was like, he's so high on Braylon Moore. And he's basically like, if I've got my center position solidified, the guy who's making the calls on the offensive line, the guy who can, he's able to, the way he's able to block, way he's able to handle the blocking schemes. If I've got that center, then I can figure out the rest. And that's pretty much what Brian Kelly is banking on, is that I've got the center and I've got these I've got these guys around the offensive line that can help. And certainly like at left tackle, they've got Tyree Adams, who's replacing Will Campbell. Tyree Adams is a guy that we covered here. He's a New Orleanian. He went to high school here at St. Aug. St. Aug has produced a number of great offensive linemen and defensive linemen. And that's the anchor that he expects at left tackle. He was injured last year. He had a pectoral tear that forced him to miss the entire season. So he's healthy. He's there to anchor that left tackle side. And then basically it's other guys that are starters and transfers that they've got on the offensive line. Brian Kelly's very high on the offensive line. We'll see, because he's going to have a test right out the gate with Clemson's D-line, which I think arguably is probably one of the best defensive lines in the country. You've got potentially 2 top 10 picks coming off that defensive line. So if Brian Kelly's really high on this offensive line, they're going to get a test right out the gate. And if they're able to hold up, then LSU does have a great chance at beating Clemson if they can establish up front, which we all know you win games on the offensive line. We're going to see they're going to get tested right out the gate. But that's the battle you're going to look for in this game. Can that offensive line hold up to this defensive line? Brian Kelly thinks so. We're going to see if that happens on that Saturday.
Yeah, I was going to kind of bring up, and one of the things I think of when you look at this matchup is I think the crowd, which Brian Kelly hadn't been very smart in trying to make the Clemson fans fired up, but that's what he's done with his comments in the last few weeks. When you got a brand new offensive line and these guys are working together and going on the road for the first time in an environment they're not used to, and how loud it is at Clemson. It's extremely loud. And, go back to the Louisville game and games like that, when it was like that kind of environment, how there were so many procedure penalties. And this is something I think you got to watch out for in this game with this brand new offensive line. Is communication is going to be a big deal, right?
Communication, working that silent count, that communication with Nussmeier and Braylon Moore. And again, that's why he's high on Braylon Moore, is because it is an experienced guy who, they can handle those silent snap counts. LSU has been preparing for it as best as they can. And Grant, they do play in a loud environment, and at Tiger Stadium as well here in Baton Rouge. I think they had this past Saturday, they did a whole game scrimmage. So they did a scrimmage at 6:45. So they try to simulate as much as they can, pump in music, trying to do all that stuff. But again, it is different when you're actually seeing the live bullets, being in Death Valley at Clemson and experiencing that. But again, that's where that center quarterback silent count stuff is going to, where is that communication at that offensive line? Where is that communication at this point? Brian Kelly, again, feels confident that it's there. But again, you're not going to know until you're facing those live bullets there on that Saturday if it works or not. But he feels confident that they will be able to handle that road environment, which is a very tough road environment.
We've talked a good bit about the offense. What are your thoughts on this defense this year? I know last season there were a lot of question marks surrounding that defense, and they went under a lot of scrutiny at times. What do you think about this defense? I mean, they bring back 8 starters, but what do you think they're going to look like when the leather hits the toe here?
Yeah, I think their depth is a little bit better, especially what they're going to be rotating on the defensive line. Blake Baker's in his second year over from Missouri, where he was last year. And that was the biggest thing last year. Like they had some good frontline guys, but it was the depth, especially on that defensive line, because you had Savion Jones, who was the guy that was their leader on the defensive end, another kid that we covered here in the Southeast Louisiana area from high school on. He was, I think his junior year, he was the #1 overall recruit in the state of Louisiana. And he led them in sacks last year, ends up getting drafted by the Denver Broncos. But outside of that, they had no rotational depth at the ends and at defensive tackle. I think that's improved a little bit this year. Certainly, they hit the transfer portal hard on the D-line. Jack Pyburn, who's the Florida transfer, he's expected to be rotating at that defensive end. Gabriel Relaford is another guy at defensive end that they can throw in there. I think they're better up front at the defensive tackle. Dominic McKinley, who's one of the top defensive tackle recruits here in Louisiana, he's a guy that you're going to see rotating a lot, starting on that defensive line. So their depth on that D-line is a lot better than last year. I'm more worried about the back end, right? So they went and got 2 transfers at safety, AJ Halsey and Tamarcus Cooley. Cooley, NC State transfer, they were very high on during the spring and in preseason camp. But they're going to be starting 2 new safeties there. Their safety play was atrocious, lack for a better word, last year on that back end. Their cornerbacks, they're better. Ashton Stamps, a guy who went to Rummel, who's another high school here in New Orleans. He's going to be one of the starters, and they had a Virginia Tech transfer who's going to be the other starter. So they're patchworking a lot of the back end with transfers. And again, they've only been in the system for now 4 or 5 months. So that's where, again, if you go into an environment like that, and what weapons that Clemson can go out on the edges and play deep, that kind of worries me on the back end. And we're going to see how they can hold up in this first game.
Ricardo LeCompe joining us, sports anchor, sports reporter for WWLTV in New Orleans. You can follow him at RLECOMPTE TV on X, and get I say go over there and get a good follow, because not only do you do the Tigers, you'd also do the Saints too, Ricardo, and I know you enjoy being down there and doing all that stuff. You talked about the defense and Clemson's wide receiver. You mentioned, okay, they've got a little better. You think a little bit better at corner. You think they're a little bit better at safety, but they got to go up against this Clemson offense that is the exact opposite of LSU. They do bring back a starting quarterback, but they also bring back an experienced offensive line and experienced wide receivers. Is that a concern for Coach Kelly and them going into this game, that what Clemson has on the outside and how many playmakers they have in this offense?
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest concerns. And I think the way to kind of counteract, not only do you have to worry about those corners playing one-on-one on an island, or if you're having safety help with the new safeties as well, but how much pressure or what are you getting toward Cade Klubnik, right? Like, what are you doing to kind of mess up his rhythm, his timing, his window that he's seeing, right? So I think one of the other factors, too, is what they have at linebacker. And LSU's linebackers are really good. You've got the Weeks brothers, yep, and you've got Harold Perkins. Mm-hmm. And one of the mistakes that I felt like with Harold Perkins, they have wanted to make him a middle linebacker because they feel like he's going to protect the best in the NFL as that. But I think his strength is the edge. When he's on the edge, when he's able to rush, when he's able to do a bunch of different things and disrupt offenses, that's when he plays his best. And that's what I felt like when they played Florida State in the opener 2 years, the consecutive years, the one in Orlando a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And Jordan Travis basically didn't worry about Harold Perkins because they kept him in the middle and he got to do whatever he wanted to do. And that's kind of where I'm feeling like, how much of an impact would Harold Perkins do on Cade Klubnik? Can he disrupt? Can he get home? Can he be able to do a lot of that stuff? Certainly the Weeks brothers, a lot of that tackling, a lot of them getting out to the outside and doing all that, they're going to be great as well. But if Harold Perkins can make an impact and be that disruptive force at that linebacker spot, I think that's the way to kind of disrupt that experienced offensive line, an experienced quarterback, and this Clemson offense.
Yeah, we got brothers and brothers because Clemson's got a pair of brothers too, and the Woodaz brothers that'll be in this game as well that play linebacker as well. Yeah. It's kind of interesting that the two teams are named Tigers. They both got Death Valley, and they both have brothers playing linebacker. Could we just keep copying each other? They both have Heisman Trophy contenders, right? It's just like
it was almost like this was meant to be. Like this clash was going to happen. Like, hey, look all these similarities we share. All right, let's see who's the better of that. Right, like this, it was meant to be that we had to see Clemson and LSU matchup. Right.
Well, so far LSU has the bragging rights on it. I think the all-time series is 3-1. LSU's obviously a couple bowl wins in the Sugar Bowl and the Peach Bowl, and then of course in the national championship game. And then Clemson, of course, got that one Chick-fil-A Bowl back in 2012 with Taj Boyd. So I know the Clemson people are anxious about it. Let me ask you a question. First of all, are you going to come to the game? Are you guys going to come up here and cover it?
We will not be up there.
That sucks.
Unfortunately. No, I was looking forward to it because I was like, hey, we're going to get over this. And part of it is because we're traveling for most of our Saints road games as well. And the other one, and this is a little behind the curtain TV, TV talk here. We don't have the SEC anymore. Obviously, we're a CBS affiliate.
Oh, that's
so
right.
We don't have any more of the SEC games, and actually our competing station is airing the game that night. So in terms of hey, follow WWL when we're at Clemson-LSU, it doesn't really benefit us because you're going to be having to turn over to the other station to watch them and then likely stay, so it's a lot of that where it's like, where's our bang for our buck for a 6:30 kickoff that probably will last past our 10, it's a lot of that kind of stuff where it's like, all right, let's save some of that money and we can, move that over to covering the Saints. But outside of the Clemson game, we will be at a majority of the LSU home games, and the road schedule isn't that daunting. And we have the other thing is we cover not only the Saints, we cover Tulane, we cover Southeastern and Nichols, which are two FCS schools. Nichols is playing in the first college football game on American soil on Saturday. Because remember they have the game overseas.
And I'll be watching.
Yep. Nichols and Infinite Word play in the first game on ESPN2 at noon. So it's like, all right, that's, that you were talking about that. So we have a lot of different things we cover and travel for as well. And then, if we were airing the LSU Clemson game, absolutely, we'd 100% be there. But because of that kind of thing, we're like, all right, well, does it really benefit us? Will we be able to get anything on? Because we know how TV games are, especially on ABC. They last 7.5 hours. So anything on our late show.
So true.
Yeah. So that's why we won't be there. But, obviously we'll be covering the Tigers, all year long.
Yeah. Alex, go ahead. I know you probably got something else to ask.
Yeah, I was going to ask you too, Ricardo. Something not a lot of people are talking about it in terms of this game is neither of these teams have won the opener in a while.
Yes.
So there's especially LSU. I mean, Brian Kelly hasn't won one since he's been there. The 2 years before that, they didn't win one. How much pressure is there on just starting the season on a good note?
Alex, extreme pressure from LSU. Like, they came into when they started in January for spring practices, literally on the wall in their locker room, they had 1-0, right? But not 1-0. It was like literally the 1-0 and the countdown to the opener. The only thing that matters for them right now and all the extra pressure and everything is to finally win an opener. Like they did do it. Like Brian Kelly's yet to do it since being the head coach, lost to USC last year, lost to Florida State the last 2 years. Like everything is culminating. All of this work from the spring ball to preseason camp, all this is culminating to win the opener. Like they want to get off the schneid. Like they are tired of losing openers and the fan base is tired of it. Brian Kelly hears about it all the time. He's like, hey, look, we're focused on the pressure is up. Like for them to finally break through and win an opener. And that would be some accomplishment if they can go to Clemson and win an opener and kind of just be like, all right, Brian Kelly is our dude. Like, this is the guy. Because they lose another season opener, it just kind of gives it's not like the season's over, but it's also kind of like there's another thing to kind of like turn that pressure up more on Brian Kelly on the hot seat. He's not on the hot seat. It's kind of warm right now, but another notch would be like they lose another opener. They don't get into the playoffs this year. That thing turns up as well. And it's kind of funny because, again, like I said, they had 2 10-win seasons and a 9-win season last year. Most programs would take that. But, again, at LSU, at Clemson, the expectation is just a little higher, so you can't get away with just winning 9 or 10 games.
And Clemson is obviously trying to get that. They've lost 3 of their last 4 openers. Mm-hmm. This is the first home opener they've had since 2019, to start the season. And then, the fact that they've just not played very well against SEC teams as of late. And that's another factor that's kind of on the Clemson side of things. It's right. Not only win the opener, but you can knock off an SEC team to do that and kind of get off that schneid, if you will. So, yeah, I think Dabo's not feeling the pressure like Brian Kelly would be, obviously, because his program is more established and people are a little more patient. But if Clemson doesn't win, I can tell you there's not going to be any happy people in the Clemson, Greenville, Spartanburg area on Sunday and Monday. I can tell you that much if they don't win this game against LSU. So I feel you, and that's what's going to make this game another example of what makes this game interesting, right? I mean, both teams trying to get off the schneid in season openers.
Yeah, and I can just imagine the fan base, whoever loses that, let's just say they're going to hit the parking lot hard after the post game and drink their sorrows away. Especially if it's LSU, they're going to drink their sorrows away.
LSU
a lot of drinking prior. They'll do a lot of drinking prior.
They can do it during now too. I mean, that's another aspect of this game.
Right. Yeah, especially since because all that. Yeah, you can drink during, before, like that. That's one thing. I hope. I'll tell all the Clemson fans, LSU tailgating fan, like they are great. Like it's going to be when they are there, and a lot of LSU people are going to make that trip up there. And you're going to see a lot of purple and gold, but they are fantastic in terms of like tailgating, being accommodating. They'll talk junk, but they'll also be like, hey, come have a drink, eat some food. Here we go. We've got some gumbo. We've got some, we got some crawfish drop down. We some, whatever. Like they will share with you and do all that. So that's the one thing I'm like, man, I wish I could go through because that tailgate scene outside the thing leading up to a 6:30 or 7:30 game for you guys, like, it's going to be a party all day there. It's going to be fun, and the atmosphere is going to be wild. It's going to be great.
It is. They're calling for. I'm hearing anywhere from 15 to 30,000 LSU fans that won't get in the stadium. Yeah, that are going to be out,
and that's perfectly fine with them. Yeah, yes. That's perfectly fine with them. They'll be like, "Hey, we're fine. We'll drink and hang out, watch it on TV. We're good. We're good."
So it's going to be fun. Clemson. It's going to be interesting to see because, as you know, Clemson's a tiny town. And so it's going to be interesting to see that many LSU people down here on a Friday night.
Yeah.
invading Clemson, little old Clemson. I mean, it's good. I am staying away, my friend. I'm
Yes,
staying on my
that's
side
the
of
smart thing
Seneca.
to do.
I
Right.
am going nowhere near Clemson on Friday night in that LSU game. Hey, Ricardo, man, I know you got to get ready for the newscast and all that, so I'm gonna let you roll, man. Tell people how they can find you and what you're going to be doing here between now and game day.
I'll be at our LeCompe TV. You can follow me there on X and on Instagram. It's kind of funny because we're going to be. I think we've got all our last media availabilities done for preseason camp. So the next time we'll be up at LSU will be game week. So it'll be next Monday. We'll be up there. And Brian Kelly has his Monday thing, kind of like what Dabble does on his Tuesdays. It'll be the same thing for Brian Kelly up there on Monday and kind of get our last kind of talking, like the last talking points. Because again, this has been a culmination of since January of like leading up to this one big game. And yeah, we'll have some reports for that and just kind of leading up to the game on Saturday. And then, yeah, I think I'll be tuning in right there, sitting down here 6:30 while I'm like coming off the set, finishing my 6 o'clock on a Saturday to sit down and be like, all right, let's watch some LSU Clemson. So that's kind of the lead up into which should be a fantastic top 10 matchup.
All right, man. So since you're not coming up here next year, I am coming down there. So drinks are on you in Baton Rouge
for sure.
And so we'll have a few Friday night before the game down there in Baton Rouge. How about that?
Yeah, Will, I'm down with it. Will, Alex, both. Yep, we'll do that.
Let's do it.
All right, Ricardo. Thanks, buddy. I'll let you go, buddy.
All right, I'll see y'all.
See you, guy. All right, that's Ricardo LeCompe joining us from WWLTV in New Orleans. Go give him a follow and follow him if you're a Clemson fan as they get ready for the LSU Clemson game. It's going to be a blast, man. Alex, I'm stoked about it, and Ricardo's got me more hyped up now, even before I was about this game, man. I don't remember last time in Death Valley to start a season the game was this hyped up. Do you?
No, I can't think of a time. I mean, the last time that a game was this hyped was that Notre Dame game in 2015. And it's because you had the bye week, and then you had the hurricane, and you had the first time they're coming since the 70s. So that's the last time that there was a game that was this hyped up in Death Valley. And then before that, I guess it'd be Georgia in 2013 would probably be the time before that where it was this level of excitement. But it being at the beginning of the year is, to start the season just adds a whole new layer because you've been talking about this thing, like we mentioned, since December. We've been talking about this football game and getting ready for it. And we talked too about all the similarities between these two teams and kind of their aspirations and, where the program's at and what the vibe is going into the year. Man, I'm ready to go. Can it be like August 30th tomorrow?
Can we just fast forward?
I wish it was like Click, like the movie Click. You can just fast forward on the remote the next Saturday.
Yeah. like you do on those, when you got it like Netflix, when you've paid up, we don't have to worry about ads, stuff like that. You can just fast forward through the parts, So yeah, we got some, and one guy, pull it up here, Alex. I'll pull it up. We got here, Mr. Ellis here talks about they're going back and forth, and I appreciate you guys joining us and commenting in the comment sections. But on YouTube, Mr. Ellis says Barry and Brown gave Clemson hell last year, and I wonder how Clemson will do against the run defense as well. Good questions. First of all, it wasn't last year Mr. Brown gave Clemson trouble. It was the 2023 Gator Bowl, where he did give Clemson a lot of trouble. But in all fairness to Clemson, though, Clemson wasn't playing his regular starters on the defensive back. They a couple guys went pro before that game, and also it's a little bit different situation because now you're going to have Clemson starters going against Barry Brown. Nothing against Barry Brown, though; still a super talented guy and lightning fast. He's going to actually, be the kick returner specialist in this game for LSU. And then as far as the run defense goes, well, Clemson thinks they've addressed that. They first of all went and got Will Helt out of the transfer portal to help on that left side of that defensive line to kind of sure things up on that side. And, of course, Jaheim Lawson has progressed nicely since last year, and he's where they want him to be, got up to 260 pounds. They think he's going to be a guy they can count on. That's going to help back up Will Helt on that side of the line as well. And then they got this guy named Tom Allen. to run the defense now. And I know you guys aren't privy to practice like I have been able to be. Trust me, tackling's going to be fine for Clemson going forward. The missed tackles that you saw in that game against Texas and all that, those days are done as long as Mr. Allen's going to be the defense coordinator at Clemson. So it's going to be a little bit different running the football. Plus, LSU didn't run the ball very well last year, even with that good offensive line. They weren't very good at running the football, and they got question marks with a brand new offensive line coming into Clemson. I like Clemson's matchup there. I think that's a side of the matchup Clemson definitely has an edge to. So we'll see what happens. Go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, John Grant hops in. He corrects himself here, but 2013 FSU is the last home game he remembers that was this big, this hyped up going into the year.
Yeah, he's talking about the 13 game, but that was middle of the season.
Yeah.
The 2013 Georgia game, the open the season. I'm talking about an opener, not because this is like the Florida State game was the middle of the year, and Clemson and Florida State were both like on a collision course in that season because Clemson won the opener against Georgia. And they won that top 10 matchup against Georgia. Clemson was number 8. Georgia was number 5, I believe. And so that's the last time I remember a home opener, right, Alex, being like this, right? And plus it was Georgia, who, let's be honest, Clemson and Georgia hate each other. So, then that also added to it a little bit.
You're right. You want to get into this a little bit? Talk kind of our thoughts going into this game?
Early thoughts? Yeah, sure.
Early
Let's
thoughts.
do it, man. Let's roll. What you got?
Well, my first thing is kind of what I asked Ricardo is I feel like people are maybe overlooking some of LSU's defensive flaws from last year.
I think you're right.
The last few years. I mean, they do bring back 8 starters, which obviously you're excited about. But kind of looking through some of these numbers I had circled here, they gave up 364 yards a game, 140 yards a game on the ground, and 224 yards through the air.
Yeah.
And there isn't a single one of those numbers that you feel too great about.
No, and granted, that's last year's team, and this is different. And they got, they feel second-year coordinator, and, they feel good about, what they're going to have this year going to be improved. And I think they will be. I'm going to go ahead and say it. When you've played 1 year and you got 1 year on your belt, the natural progression is you get a little bit better. But are they going to be better against Clemson right out of the gate? And that's the question mark, right?
Yeah. I mean, they gave up
a tough challenge to have to go up against this Clemson offense.
Yeah, they gave up 41 yards per game above average to opponents last year. So opponents were, they weren't just, doing the same thing that they average on a good week. They were overperforming against this LSU defense, and that's not something that you're excited about if you're a Bayou Bengals fan. And the other thing too, and me and you've talked about this several times this offseason on the show and off the show, that I feel like people aren't talking about enough is like that Garrett Nussmeier is not playing against Cade Klubnik in this game.
That's right.
LSU's wide receivers are not playing against Clemson's wide receivers in this game.
Mm-hmm.
LSU's defensive front is not playing against Clemson's defensive front in this game. And I just feel like the more that I look at this, that the matchups in this game tend to favor the Tigers that are going to be wearing orange.
Yeah, the lines of scrimmage especially. And me and you both know that's where this game is won and lost, is always at the lines of scrimmage. And the key for Clemson, and we'll talk more about this next week, but for Clemson is like they got to get pressure up the middle, right? Well, right now, LSU, as Coach Kelly says, they still haven't got a left guard.
Yeah.
That's a big deal to me. And right now they got a couple guys, Paul, forgive me for saying this wrong. I'm just going to spell it, Mubenga, 6'5", 305-pound junior. And then Cohen Eccles, 6'3", 318-pound sophomore. Those are the two guys battling it out for that left guard position. Also battling it out with them is DJ Chester, who's also in the battle at right tackle for them as well. So he's 6'6", 320. So, and he actually, they thought he was going to be the right tackle, but then something's changed where Coach Kelly came out the other day and he's like, well, we don't know what we're going to do at right tackle. And everybody's like, what about DJ? Kind of like, kind of caught everybody by surprise because they thought that was probably anchored already for him as well. Now, maybe that's Coach Kelly just using the media to call him out to make sure he pays attention because he hadn't had, but in just hearing reports, listening to other podcasts and stuff like that, The concern is in the middle of that defense. And Alex, I will bring this up. And Ricardo talked about Braylon Moore, 6'2", 300-pound transfer from redshirt junior from Virginia Tech. He played in Blacksburg last year. Alex, what happened in Blacksburg last year when he played against Peter Woods?
Didn't go very well.
It didn't go very well at all. And so and that's when Clemson moved Peter Woods back inside. That was his first game back inside, and it didn't go well at all for now. Now, granted, Virginia Tech's a little bit different scheme and what they run, and I don't want people to understand this too. Everybody's like, well, Clemson didn't run the ball very well last year. And well, they did up until the injuries hit. Clemson, again, I'll remind people of this. Clemson led the ACC in rushing yards per game and led the ACC in rushing yards per carry up until the Louisville game. Then after that, Phil Maffa was hurt, and they went downhill after that. And by the way, Phil Maffa had 8 rushing touchdowns, had 3 straight games of 2 rushing touchdowns in a row. After the Louisville game, didn't have a single rushing touchdown after that. Why? Well, a couple reasons. Phil Maffa was hurt. That was one. The other reason is your starting left tackle and left guard missed multiple games. Your backup left tackle was out and injured for the season at Pitt on the first play of the game. They struggled to run the ball, yet Clemson still finished with averaging in the top 10 in total offense at 451. That's top 10 nationally at 451 yards a game. And they were top 15 in scoring offense at 34.7 without a running game for the last 6 games of the season. So that's why, Alex, your point's valid about, okay, LSU gives up a lot of rushing yards. Clemson's going to be healthier in the run game to start the season anyway. We'll see if it stays that way. But right now, that Clemson offensive line is going to be healthy. And even with, I know some people, well, Walker Parks is out. Well, that's got to – no, it doesn't. I'll tell you why it doesn't, because I just mentioned Harris Sewell. He's got starts under his belt last year and the year before. He's basically a 2-year starter. You also got Thurman, who started a couple games last year before he's injured. So I'm not worried about that. Yeah. Are they better with Walker Parks? Yep, a little bit better. Or is it a major loss? No, it's not. So I think Clemson's going to be fine even if Walker Parks doesn't play.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. And the other thing with the transfers that concerns me for LSU is the 2 groups that you had to bring those transfers into, and you're playing this game in the opener. So you mentioned it, the communication on the offensive line in a hostile road environment. Yeah, add on to that, you hadn't played a football game together. These guys hadn't played a football game together on the offensive line, and they're going to be breaking that communication in at Clemson with 81,000 people raining down on you. And then the defensive secondary for LSU, you're going to have to figure out your communication and stuff at Clemson against this wide receiver group and against this quarterback that have experience and have proven that they're explosive. So those things really concern me for LSU going into this game. Mm-hmm. Is you're breaking into pretty critical position groups that you need to be on point in game 1, and you're doing it against Clemson on the road.
I agree. Scott Millsap on YouTube asked this question. I saw a picture of the team on the practice field gathered together and counted 9, maybe 10 players in yellow jerseys. Does this sound correct as of today? Scott, I'm glad you brought that up because that picture is actually earlier in camp. And Dabo had a couple guys they held out early in camp intentionally. So, yes, you're correct on that's how many there was. But they're not as many now. Far as we understand from what Coach Sweeney has reported to us, a lot of guys have come back and they're already available. Some guys like Pat Henry had his tonsils taken out. So he just had to – it wasn't like he was injured. He just had to wait till his tonsils healed before they let him back on the field. And he's been back for a long while now. Jaden Lucas just had a little bit of, like a hamstring injury or something. So it wasn't anything serious on his part. And so he's already back at practice. Now go ahead and pull that up, Alex. Alan's asking us, what's the status of Khalil Barnes? Dabo said last week that Khalil Barnes was already back at practice before the scrimmage on, I guess that was Saturday, or the last Wednesday, excuse me, that he had already was was participating in some of their situational stuff where they weren't doing any hitting. So he was already back. So he's already back at practice. If he's already back and he stays healthy between now and the next 10 days, he's going to be playing. So, it sounds like he's fine. It wasn't anything serious. Dabo told us that from the beginning. He just needed to rest a little bit and heal. So Khalil Barnes should be okay as of what we know from the last time we talked with Coach Sweeney.
Yeah, at this time of year, these are the questions you have going into the opener. Who's healthy, who's coming back, who's banged up. But the good thing too is, it's the first game of the year, so you're probably as healthy as you're going to be all season going into that first game.
Yeah, John Grant. Haven't heard a lot about LSU's on Facebook. Haven't heard a lot about LSU's running backs, but they have a good one returning and a 5-star freshman. Hopefully our run defense is a lot better this year. John, you're right. They do got some pretty good backs. The freshman Kelly talked about it a couple weeks ago where he said he thinks he's going to be really good, but right now he's behind. So I don't know how much we're going to see a true freshman on the road in key situations against Clemson. I'll be surprised. He is a 5-star, and you want to get him on the field as fast as you can. But I remember a guy named C.J. Spiller that didn't even see the field his first game. His first game was against Boston College on the road, and we all know Boston College is not a very intimidating environment. Travis Etienne didn't play his first game as a true freshman. We all know how good he was, right? So running back, you got to be real careful with the running back in that first game because when he's out there, Clemson knows he's a true freshman. It is without a doubt, 100% they're running a football moment, right? I mean, You just know it because there's no way you're putting a true freshman out there in pass pro or trying to read coverages and go out for a pass and read linebackers. You're not doing it. So He's just not ready. And this was like last week, Brian Kelly was talking about it, that he just wasn't ready from that standpoint, but he thinks he's going to be really good and is going to help them as they get into the season. But I'll be surprised if we see much of him at all in this game against Clemson. Wouldn't you think, Alex?
Yeah, I think so too. But running the football is a huge key in this game for LSU. If LSU wants to walk out of Death Valley with a win,
they got to run the ball.
They're going to have to run the football.
Yeah.
And that offensive line is going to have to establish the line of scrimmage.
And that's not their thing. I think they were last in the SEC in rushing yards per game last year. So they're not very good at running the football last year. And that was, again, as I said earlier, that was with 3 NFL prospects on the offensive line that got drafted last year. So, and one was a top 5 guy. So top 5 overall player. They struggled to run the football in this situation. So, we'll see, again, I like Clemson in this matchup. I really do. As long as everybody stays status quo, I think Clemson has the edge in that matchup against LSU, Clemson's defense against. And like you said, it's not Cade Klubnik versus Garrett Nussmeier. It's not, those two are not playing against each other. They're on opposite sides of the ball. And
and I don't understand why people don't get this yet. When you're going through and you're evaluating a football game between two teams, you don't go through and write out the position groups and say plus or minus, and then whoever has more pluses wins the football game. You compare the units that are going against each other. You compare Clemson's offensive line and LSU's defensive line, and Clemson's receivers and LSU's defensive backs. And that's where you find your plus minuses, not the other way around.
Yeah, I think it's fair right now when you say, okay, Clemson's defense versus LSU's offense, who has the edge? I think Clemson's got the edge because of that defensive front, right, against LSU's, though experienced, but new offensive line. It's a new offensive line.
Yeah.
So,
and I think, too, you look at Clemson's front 7 versus LSU's offensive line and running game. Mm-hmm. I think Clemson has the edge there as well.
Right. Now, does LSU have the edge probably on the outside? Probably. Yeah,
I think so, too.
I have no problem saying that because they got some talented wide receivers, as we mentioned before, in Brown. But when you flip it over and you say, okay, Clemson's offense against LSU's defense, I think when you break it all down and you go through it, Clemson's offense has the edge in this game because though LSU's got some all SEC caliber players, and as Ricardo meant, their linebackers are really, really good. They are, but there's question marks about their front four, and there's question marks on the back end, definitely, as they're starting new corners and new safeties against an experienced wide receiving core and experienced quarterback who I think was going to have time to throw the football. And if Cade Klubnik has time to throw the football, ask Texas what happens.
Yeah.
He ripped them apart, and Texas had the number one defense in the SEC last year.
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right, that's a little bit of – we're going to break it down more next week. And hopefully maybe we'll have some news to go with that too next week when we come back. But right now, Alex, we wanted to do our playoffs. All right, so you got your 12-team playoff. I got my 12-team playoff. Let's kind of go through this a little bit here as we finish out the podcast here tonight. I'm going to let you go ahead first, man. You tell me who your 4 conference champions are and your group of 5 champion that's going to come out.
All right. My 4 conference champions. We will start with the group of 5. Okay. And me and you talked about this before the show that we have no idea who the hell is going to be the best team in the group of 5 this year. I think that neither did the voters. That's why they put Boise State there after they lost their best player.
Right.
But I've got Tulane being the best team in the group of 5.
But we both admit we have no idea.
Yeah, and I couldn't tell you 4 players or 3 players. Maybe not 2 players play for Tulane. I'm no Tulane expert. Maybe we should have asked Ricardo about that. He'd know a lot more about Tulane.
We should have. Darn it. That was stupid of us.
And then we could have made a last-minute change here if we needed to.
Yeah.
Out of the Big 12, I've got Kansas State finally doing it. And I think a lot of that is because
that's a surprise.
A lot of that is because of year 2 of Avery Johnson. I think he – in his first
and we
years,
don't mean the basketball coach, Avery Johnson.
Correct. The quarterback. I think a lot of it for me is I saw similarities in his performance to Cade Klubnik's first year as a starter last year. He had a little bit of golden retriever syndrome. He made some dumb reads in red zone situations, had some costly turnovers, but he had moments where he was incredibly explosive. And I think Kansas State brings back enough around him to where they can kind of win that conference. I would have had BYU there if the whole quarterback thing wouldn't have happened. And I don't know why I'm not an Arizona State believer, even though they showed it to me last year. I'm just still not an Arizona State believer. So there's my Big 12.
All right.
SEC, I think Georgia's going to win the SEC. I know they have a new quarterback. I know I threw all kinds of mud about that. But I think Kirby Smart has proven that he can coach a team to win a conference title.
They got a hard schedule. It's a hard schedule.
They do have a hard schedule, but if anybody can do it, it's Kirby Smart.
Okay.
My Big Ten champion. Here I go, not believing in James Franklin to win the big one again. I got Ohio State winning the Big Ten with a new quarterback, and then in the ACC, I have Clemson winning the league.
So me and you differ in a lot of these. So I'm going to go ahead and start off. So I'm going to start the other way, though. I'm going to go SEC first. Okay. My SEC champion is I think Texas has got the best roster in the SEC. And, yeah, they got a question mark at quarterback, but he doesn't have to do anything but not screw it up. And I'm just like, if you got a good coach, and I believe Stark is a good coach, and you got a quarterback who has potential who can throw the football and do things, and you just say, hey, look, let's just don't screw it up this year. Don't put things in harm's way. You got a very good defense. Let your defense win games for you, and then we'll just make plays when we need to. Plus, the schedule is not that difficult for Texas.
Yeah.
They start off with Ohio State, but they got a very favorable SEC schedule, again, as they did last year. So I like Texas to come through that, and I like Texas to finally get over the hump and beat maybe Georgia in the SEC championship game. We'll see. My Big Ten champion is Penn State. They won it last year. I think they'll win it this year, and primarily because I just think Ohio State just, again, got a good roster. But Ohio State's got a couple of tough games, and we'll see where Ohio State is at the end of the year. And they got to beat Michigan. If Ohio State beats Michigan, maybe then Ohio State wins it. But right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just pick Penn State. I think they're the better team at the moment. Anyway, In the Big 12, I got Arizona State. I think Arizona State's a sleeping giant. You saw.
I love Kenny Dillingham. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, they got to the
hell of a coach.
He is, and he got to the college football playoff last year when nobody expected them to be there. This year, they're ranked number 11. I think they're one of those teams that can come out of that top. They're not in that top 7 because 19 of the last 21 teams to win a national championship have come from the top 7 of the AP preseason poll. But I think they could be one of those teams that could contend. There's no doubt in my mind they can. I think they win the Big 12. I think they roll through the Big 12 because they got a very easy schedule. And I think I actually think they're going to be undefeated at the end of the regular season. And then I got, like you, I got Tulane just because who else am I going to pick? I really don't know. I mean, I'll be honest.
Did any of you have an idea who the best Group of 5 team is?
Yeah, I went through, and it's not Boise State. Boise State's got a lot of question marks. Tulane got a question. They got some good players and stuff, but got question marks at quarterback. Going through a couple other teams I was looking at, same issues. Just like so, everybody, and of course, that's a lot of Group of 5 teams like that because their big star players leave, right?
Right.
And they go.
It could be. I mean, you feel like it could kind of be anybody.
Yeah, I think it's wide open to see who's going to be that Group of 5 representative. All right, Alex, that's 1 through 5.
This is where I'm really going to lose.
Now, let's just go ahead how it's going to be. As we mentioned earlier, the college football playoff, because you guys don't know this year, the top 12, within the top 12, and not counting the Group of 5, because the Group of 5 champion, if they're not in the top 12, they'll be in the playoffs. So the top 12 or top 11 seeds that you see in the college football playoff rankings, that's how it's going to be seeded, how they fall in the rankings. So that means 1 through 11 is likely to be what you see, and then the 12 is going to be the Group of 5.
Yep.
Right? Is that how you did it, Alex?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Go ahead.
All right. So starting with number 11. This is where I'm really going to lose you. I'm going to lose you here.
Okay.
I've got Florida.
At number 11.
At number 11.
Boy, you love doing different things, don't you? All right.
Yeah, and here's why. And it's 2 letters and then a word.
Okay.
Is DJ Lagway. I think that DJ Lagway is the player in college football that nobody's talking about with the highest upside. He's a game changer. He wasn't supposed to be thrown into the fire last year. They had Graham Mertz as a transfer quarterback, and he gets hurt early in the year, and you had an inexperienced DJ Lagway leading the team.
Mm-hmm.
But they finished the year last year on a tear. Let's see if I can find it in my notes here. They finished the year beating LSU,
beating the last 5,
and then beating Florida State.
Yep.
So they won their last 3 ball games, and a lot of that was because of him. Mm-hmm. They returned 8 starters on offense, 7 on defense. Billy Napier, you talk about a warm seat. He has a scorching hot seat coming into the year there. And I think they have an okay schedule to get it done. Now they're going to have to do what?
The only question with Florida is skill players are hurt. And so is Lagway going to be the difference maker in the sense that he's not going to have anybody to throw it to? He's going to have to do a lot on his own. Does that remind you of somebody?
It does remind me.
Yeah, Abe Klubnik a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, that's a big deal. And so we'll see how he handles not really having any skill players on the outside. We'll see how he handles that.
Yep.
But I don't disregard the pick. I think it's definitely a pick that a lot of people agree with you in a way, to be honest with you. Go ahead, man. What do you got? Who do you got next?
Yep. Number 10, I've got Illinois. Me and you have talked about Illinois a few times on this show. Mm-hmm. They just have that cakewalk Indiana path to get into the dance. So that's where I've got them. Number 9, I already did that. That's Kansas State.
Okay.
The next one I have is Miami, getting in as my number 8 team.
Okay. ACC getting a representation there.
Yep. My number 7 is LSU.
Okay. I'm with you. I think LSU's got a very good schedule after the Clemson game, and it's a one where I think they can still win 10 games, and if they win 10 games, they're in the playoffs.
Yep, 100%. Number 6, I've got Notre Dame.
Okay.
I know that they just announced yesterday that CJ Carr, the true freshman, is going to be their starting quarterback. They have the best running back in the country.
And they got the best defense in the country.
And that's a recipe to get in the playoff.
Yep,
if there is one. And then my last at-large team here is going to be Texas.
Okay.
So I have Texas losing in the SEC championship game to Georgia.
Okay.
So that
all right. And then what's going to be your top 4? Starting with number 4.
Seeding wise?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Georgia at 1, Ohio State at 2,
Okay.
Clemson at 3, and Penn State at 4. So 2 Big
Georgia,
10.
Ohio State, Clemson, and Penn State?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, here's mine. I'm going to start off number 12 is Tulane, group of 5. I think that's just where the group of 5 is going to land from now on.
I just did that for Thomas Brittle.
Yes.
He's an assistant baseball coach there. And
that's what we did. We did it both for Thomas Brittle. Thomas, shout out to you, buddy. Number 11 for me is Illinois. I like the Illini. Their schedule, as we mentioned, I think they may only have 1 loss, and that might come in the Big Ten championship game. So they're going to be right there. They're this year's Indiana because of their schedule. And they got a good football team, too. I mean, let's be honest. They beat South Carolina last year, shut down, Little North Sellers. So my number 10 team is Miami. I hate that both of us are picking high on the Canes, so this means we're both going to be
a lot of faith in Carson Beck and Mario Cristobal.
Exactly. We're going to end up falling on our face on this one, I think, Alex, because that's the way it works when Miami gets a lot of hype. Number 9 for me is LSU. I like LSU to get in there. Number 8, I got Oregon at number 8, coming out of the Big Ten. Number 7, I got Arizona State as the Big 12 champion. Number 6 is Ohio State coming in as the runner-up or whatever in the Big Ten. I just think Ohio State's in if they win 9-10 games. I think they'll get in. Georgia is number 5 for me as the runner-up in the SEC. Number 4 is Texas because I think Texas is going to lose at least 1, maybe 2 games. Number 3 is Penn State because I think they're going to lose maybe 1 game at least. And then number 2 is Notre Dame, who's going to go undefeated. And number 1 is Clemson, who's going to go undefeated. So that's how I did it. This kind of going that way.
We only had 2 teams of difference.
Yes,
in our picks.
We did.
I had Kansas State and Florida in there. Like I'm probably going to look like the biggest idiot on earth at the end of the year, or I'm going to look like the smartest guy on earth. It's one of those 2 things.
I know somebody earlier in the comments asked about, Georgia Tech, and so this is the way I looked at Clemson. If Clemson beats LSU, and then 3 weeks goes on the road, and 2 weeks after that, and knocks off Georgia Tech at home, because that's going to be a tough game. To me, Clemson will already be 3 weeks into the season, will already be road tough, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already going to be challenged and stuff. To me, that tells me as long as they stay healthy, Clemson's going to go through the rest of the season undefeated because they would have already been challenged by a really good Georgia Tech team on the road and a really good LSU team at home. And I just think if you can win both of those and you come out 2-0, that I think they can run the table at that point. And that's why I got Clemson number 1. Even though in my picks, though, Alex, for the ACC, I picked Clemson going 7-1 in conference play, losing to Louisville. So
this is the point of the year where you start to contradict yourself.
Yes.
We've been talking too much during talking season. We need to play some football. And thank God we get to this weekend.
Exactly. Oh, somebody said up here, Alex. I agree. Scott said this, Memphis as a group of 5. I thought about Memphis too. I've seen a lot of good things about Memphis. I wouldn't be surprised if Memphis is the group of 5 team as well. I totally agree with you, Scott, on that. Thanks for chiming in on that one.
Yeah, I think Memphis has got a chance to do it. But like we just said, anybody's got a chance to do it. I mean, we don't know much. That's the thing.
Rob says, what coach has more pressure, James Franklin or Brian Kelly? I know my answer to that.
I mean, my answer is Brian Kelly. I mean, James Franklin went to the playoff last year. So it's got to be Brian Kelly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Brian Kelly. I think there's too much going on at LSU. He's already said it. Brian Kelly's put a lot of stock in this first game. He's talked about, they've put Clemson all over the place. They've put Clemson players on their sled drills, faces of Clemson players. They got the tiger paw all over the place, and then it's almost like he's trying to convince his team they're going to beat Clemson in these media gatherings and stuff like that. And he's talked up his team. And so
sometimes that works.
Sometimes it works.
Sometimes it honestly raises some questions to me. Like Data Racer jumps in here and says, Brent Key, the Georgia Tech coach, had some interesting comments this week, says young team was trash in camp. Is that just coach speak to motivate? I would rather have my coach going out and saying, we suck during camp than coming out here saying, oh, we're going to, Death Valley Junior and we're going to go 1-0. And I'd rather my coach come out and say, we suck.
Yeah, I think it's coach speak because I think he gets a lot out of his players, and he's using the media to get that out there. Dabo did that recently with Nolan Hoosier, and he talked about how Nolan was average. And then Nolan come back this last week and was making every field goal out there. And so that's just coach speak. And so I think that's what Brent Key's doing there. He's trying to inspire his team. What we got here?
John Grant says Napier has the hottest seat of any of them. I agree. They wanted to fire him 3 games into the season last year.
I think you're right, especially if they don't. If they
were
come out
putting
and
in the newspaper that they'd fundraise the buyout.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you 100%. But Florida's stupid. If they run off another coach, they're stupid. That's why they're in this predicament. They keep running off coaches. They ran off, not that I'm a big fan of Mullen, but I mean, the guy did nothing but win 10 games almost every year and get you in the SEC championship game almost every year. And you run him off? You're in the college football playoff now if you do that. And so you ran that guy off who got you in. Now you're trying to run the next guy off who's trying to build a team because because you run off your coaches, all the players leave and stuff. So, Dan Mullen left the cupboard bared. But, probably because a lot of it is the fans are like, oh, our coach sucks. And I say this to Clemson fans all the time. Stop putting stupid stuff on the internet about how your coach sucks and stuff like that, because all it does is hurt your team. It hurts your team in recruiting. That's why you don't land those 5 stars when that happens. That's why those 5 stars decommit when that starts happening. You got to be patient. That's all I got to say. You got to be patient. If he doesn't get it done after 5 years, then you make a change. But if I'm not mistaken, this is Billy's 3rd year?
Yeah.
Give him 3 years, doggone it. Give him 4. I say give him 5.
I think last year may have been year 3, so maybe this is year 4.
You still give him 5.
Yeah.
To me, you give him one whole recruiting class. Yeah. 5 years is one whole recruiting. People say, well, that doesn't matter because of the transfer portal. It does matter because you got to build your team still from high school recruiting.
Yep.
Ask Georgia. Ask Ohio State. Ask Nick Saban, Alabama. You still build it through. Ask Clemson this year. You still build it through high school recruiting, and then you go to the transfer portal when you need a couple players or two to just kind of fill some holes. That's what you do.
Yeah, 100%. Will, before we get out of here, since this show is presented by FanDuel, you want to do a few picks?
Let's
do
5
games on Saturday.
That's right. We are Believing Clemson, presented by FanDuel. Appreciate FanDuel being our new title sponsor now, I guess, to the Believe Network. So, Alex, go ahead, man. Let's do it. What do we got?
All right, let's start this thing off with the game that anybody cares about this weekend, and that's Farmageddon, Iowa State versus Kansas State in Dublin. My good friend Tanner Barth is there and probably already pre-gaming to be at the game on Saturday.
Kansas State guy, right?
Yep, the Kansas State guy. Kansas State is a 3.5-point favorite.
What's the over and under?
The over-under is 50.5.
Like we know what any of that means for week 1, right?
Yes.
And I know me and you are such big Kansas State, Iowa State followers.
And we're such big gamblers that we, are just so good at this.
Yes. I'm going to go with Kansas State on this one. I like their quarterback. Iowa State lost a lot of guys off that team last year. That was really good. Went to the Big 12 championship game. Had one of their best seasons. I think did have their best season in school history last year, but they lost them all. And I think that matters. And I'm going to go with Kansas State to cover and to win the game and cover that 3.5. And so give me Kansas State. The points, I would stay away from that points in the first game. What did it say? You say 50-something and a half? 58?
Yeah, the over-under is 50.5. You just don't know anything.
Yeah, it's too early in the season. Remember the Florida State Georgia Tech game last year? Did they even get up to 40 points in that game? I can't.
What was it like? That one was like 45 or something. When it
that's my point though. 45 points between the two. I think that's what this kind of game is going to be. Plus, it's a rivalry game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. So I would definitely stay away from the points, and I would definitely give me Kansas to cover the 3.5.
Yeah, I'll take Kansas State with the points as well. The next one, you just mentioned this guy. He's the new head coach at UNLV. That's Dan Mullen. UNLV hosting Idaho State, and they are a 26.5-point favorite. I'm surprised there's a line on this game.
Didn't Idaho State or somebody beat UNLV last year?
I don't remember. I couldn't tell you a darn thing about UNLV.
I want to say they did. I want to say an FCS team beat UNLV last year in that opening game of the season. It might have been, though, that was North Dakota State. Which is a totally different beast.
It was somebody.
So anyway, Dan Mullen's first game against the FCS team. But Idaho State's a pretty good FCS team, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I'm going to
UNLV did not lose to an FCS team last year.
But UNLV was horrible last year, right?
No, they played in the Mountain West title game.
Then
they're Boise State.
Yeah, they'll cover then. They'll cover. Yeah. Okay, my bad then.
Yeah, I got UNLV with the cover as well. Okay. And here's another one that we're all just dying to see. Fresno State at Kansas. Kansas finally playing in Lawrence instead of playing in Kansas City or wherever the hell else they were playing on this year. Do what?
What's the line on this one?
The line is 12.5 for the Jayhawks.
For the Jayhawks. Give me Kansas to cover that 12.5. Yeah. Or was it Kansas State minus 12.5? Give it to me.
Kansas minus
12.5. Give it to me. I think Kansas is going to be a pretty good football team. The end of the year good last year. I think they got to be a pretty good team. I think they're going to be in the running for the Big 12 championship. So yeah, definitely give me Kansas, on the 12.5.
Yep, I'm taking the Jayhawks too.
First game of the year, Alex. We're rusty, man.
This is where things start to get really exciting on the Saturday slate. Sam Houston State at Western Kentucky. Western Kentucky is a 10.5-point favorite.
Well, you know what? I think Vegas knows more about Western Kentucky and Sam Houston State than I do. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Western Kentucky and the minus 10 on that. So
Hey, man, I'm going with Sam Houston to shock the world.
Plus the 10, huh? You're taking a plus
take them
10.
Plus the 10.5.
All right. I got you.
Next, we have two more. Next is the first ACC football game of the year. Stanford at Hawaii.
Underdog, Stanford.
Hawaii is a 2.5-point favorite against the Andrew Luck managed Cardinal.
I'm just going to
Frank
go.
Reich, the head coach at Stanford this
Frank
year?
Reich, yes. I'm going to go ahead and say Stanford's going to be kind of pissed off because they're the underdog in this game. And they're going to kind of like being away from the coast. People, all the negative talk they hear about them and everything. I think they go down there as a football team and they go win that game. Give me Stanford plus the 2 there. It's just, you said plus 2, right?
Yeah, plus 2.5.
Yeah, give me Stanford plus the 2.5.
Yeah, I think kind of the same thing. If anybody could go, travel thousands of miles for a football game and it not affect them, it's probably Stanford because they do that every week. So I've got the Frank Reich head coached, Andrew Luck managed Cardinal with the 2.5.
There we go. Love it.
And then closing it out, another game that I just know everybody on this podcast is just dying to see on Saturday. And that is Stony Brook at San Diego State. San Diego State is a 16.5-point favorite.
Yeah. Let's go Aztecs. Give me San Diego State minus the 16.5.
Yeah, I'm going to go the same because, to be completely honest with you, I didn't know Stony Brook had a football team. I thought they just played like baseball and cello. Like I just thought it was like band and baseball, and that's all they had. So I can't possibly take them with the points at a team that I know has a football program.
Exactly. Real quick, Alex, South Carolina team in the Little League World Series from Irmo just walked it off in extra innings in the Little League World Series. How about that?
Let's go.
They're rolling, man. They're still going strong. Love it, man. Representing state of South Carolina well and representing the Irmo area. So awesome. Glad to see that. They started off that Little League with a 13-0 win the other night. I was like, dang.
Yeah. And they started it off with a 13-0 win over the team that just made it to the championship game, Massachusetts.
So they're really, really good team. So good luck to them out there. Glad to see them walk it off and get the win there in the bottom of the 7th inning. So appreciate that update from Data Racer 117 there on YouTube for us. All right, Alex, that's going to do it for us today, man. Good show. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate our sponsors, of course, as well. If in case you're wondering, there's a football game next week.
Let's go. There's footballs on Saturday. There's football this week.
But this podcast is called Believe in Clemson. And there's a football game involving the Clemson Tigers next week. Finally, it's here. LSU at Clemson, number 9 versus number 4. It's on in the original Death Valley in college football. Here we go. Appreciate you guys joining us. We'll talk to you next time. For Alex Dodd, I'm Will Vandervoort. We'll talk to you next time on Believe in Clemson Football.